Well, hello, this is All Rats. I'm here live with Truxton. Well, actually, we're not live, but we're talking live. When you see this, we'll be on YouTube. We just played a game of TimeControl 60 and 30. Very interesting game. And I'll be uploading both videos a little later today. More concerned about what Truxton thinks of this game, because all my thoughts will be recorded, and he'll see those later. And did this move surprise you? I didn't really have anything planned.
No, it didn't surprise me at all. You know, I figured we'll just play a chess game, so.
Okay, good. And did this move surprise you?
Yes, it did.
Well,
yes,
you know, if you go back and watch my video lesson program number 5, I talked about how I'd like to play this opening. It was one thing I was teaching. And it has some tricks to it. If knight e4, I play this funny move, f3.
And that's exactly why I didn't play knight e4.
So you remembered
yes.
this? Oh, good. Okay.
So I saw your video, and I did not play knight e4 for that reason.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, for what it's worth, you did see my video, and you didn't know about it. You did know about it. Okay. So I just decided to. I don't know if it was the Torre attack or the London attack or whatever it is. I just decided to go into that, and that move kind of surprised me.
Yeah, really the only reason why I played that was so I can tuck away my bishop on h7.
Right.
I was also hoping you would take my knight. I wasn't really planning on playing g5 unless a situation occurred where I was going to castle short. Or I'm sorry, unless I was going to castle long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not certain that h6 is a good move. Probably should have played something else. But it is what it is. A
little chess terminology for those that don't know what castle short and castle long means. The king moves 2 squares when you castle, but the rook moves either 2 squares or 3 squares. So we refer to castling kingside as castling short, and castling queenside as castling long. Now in Fischer random chess, who knows? I'm not even beginning to answer that question. Let's just move on. I thought the same thing. Maybe you're planning to have h7 place for your bishop, but I wasn't too worried about it. So I went back, and I'm not sure if I anticipated this move. You didn't mention it. I was wondering if it goes back to some of those league games where black was playing c5 and the queen was coming to b6, and there were some crazy games with that where both sides, there could be a draw or one side could lose, and I was wondering if you're going to go into that.
Yeah, what's funny is that I was thinking of all those kind of things, and that's one of the reasons why I felt like queen d6 was okay, because of the interesting lines with c5 or checking and taking on b2, and I get a couple of rooks for my queen, and that's why I didn't take on b2, because it ended up being, after all that was said and done, all your pieces are up and mine aren't, and my rooks can't find lines, but. We'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. Okay, so I played c3 just to stop queen b4 check, and it actually had anticipated this. I don't think I can't remember if I anticipated it before you did it or not. It's on the video. But the first thing that came to mind was the move I played, and I did spend an awful lot of time on this move. Did you see it coming?
I considered it as one of your candidate moves. I thought to myself, white can think about playing knight bd2, knight fd2, bishop d3, pawn to b3, or queen to b3. I felt like all those moves needed to be looked at from white's point of view.
I was before you played queen b6, when I was anticipating this, I was looking at queen b3, but then bishop d3 just struck me, and I guess I spent about 20 minutes on it. We'll find out. Yeah, 20 minutes plus a little bit of increment time. But after I played it, while I'm waiting for the move, I stretched my legs and went for a quick walk, and then when I came back, I said, ooh, I just had a thought. I didn't see everything. And I go on to elaborate about, am I any less of a player because maybe I didn't consider everything up front? And I was debating about how the really good player will analyze everything and analyze it accurately. And And I said, well, I'm not a grandmaster, but I said if a 2000 player can train himself to analyze everything correctly, he's going to pick up points because he's going to refute things. And but you didn't take. Oh, wait, you did take. Yeah, you did take. But this is. What did you analyze here? Because I've got it all explained out. I want to see what you saw.
This is why I did not take on B2.
Show me why.
If I take on B2, there's a couple different things you can do here, but let's just say you castle, and then I take the rook, and in this position the tree gets barred. There's a couple things you can do, but let's just say that you don't give a check here, and let's just say that you play knight D2 here. What happens after? Well, in this position, what I was looking at during the game was either taking on A2, or you see, the problem is if I play Queen B2, then what happens after Rook B1? So instead of Queen B2, I was taking on A2, but then you've got this check. So and then taking here or messing with me here. So instead of taking a pawn, I was going to just take this rook. And then you can play king takes queen, and in this position, you know, you've got I've got both your rooks and a pawn for my queen, but it seemed like all your pieces were in the game and mine aren't, and it's not so clear in this position. Like if I just play knight D7, and then you can play knight E5, and
right.
You know, I mean, I can castle, but it's like I've got these rooks, but they're not doing anything. So it just seemed like that was unclear. And there was a few other lines that I looked at too. If we go back, if I play queen takes B2, you can play this move. And the idea is if I take the rook, then maybe the queen is embarrassed. And what do I do here? I guess I can take on A2. But then you've got this check. I don't know, knight D7.
What about C6, and then you're threatening my queen and the knight on B1 with check?
I dismissed C6 because I said to myself, if you take on B7, then you're getting this rook and it comes with check. Because after here, then
well,
you
wait, it's your move. You get check. You get two checks.
Check. Ah, yeah. You know what? I remember that your queen can't really go to B5 so easily because the knight on B1 hangs. But I just forgot about that in my analysis. I did look at that.
Okay.
But so queen takes A2, you'll just castle, right? And then play here.
Well, here you have queen A6.
Queen A6. That's true. Okay. So I think I was giving you too many moves in my thinking then.
Well, there's a couple things you didn't mention yet, because I looked at all this. This was, this was, my original move was to castle here in my analysis, and I'll show you that in a minute. And I adjusted it to play this move, but you didn't see the things that I was looking at yet. Okay, on castle and queen takes rook, you didn't consider the move that I planned.
In this position right here?
Oh, you didn't mention it. Maybe you considered it, but I had a different move in mind here than you played. I'm not going to check.
If you're not going to check, and if you're not going to move the knight on B1, then maybe you can play. Can you play this? No. In this position, I'm not sure what else you would do if you're not going to do those things. Maybe knight E5.
Well, here I'll show you. I'll show you. We'll just expedite it.
Okay.
Because anybody that watches these in order will already know the move. Let's put the knight back. What I'm planning to play here is queen C2.
Oh yeah, I did not consider that at all.
Okay.
Oh man.
And this was my original intent, and I had a whole bunch of analysis on the position, and all the various varying positions, but there was a fly in the ointment on this move, and if you didn't consider queen C2, then you didn't see the fly in the ointment.
I think that if I don't see the fly in the ointment, in this position, I can at least get your knight or your rook for the queen. And I guess if your plan to trap it is to do this maneuver, right?
Yep,
But
that's
I
it.
can play knight e4 here.
Right, that's the fly in the ointment.
Yeah.
And what I can do is just go back to my to this plan and do something you mentioned already. Give up the queen. Now you've got a rook and two pawns. I'm sorry, two rooks and a pawn for the queen, but no development. We can go into this line, and there's certain things about it that I said on the video, which anyone that watches that will already understand. The possible. I'm going to get some breaks in this position here and there. You know, c4 is coming. If your knight exchanges, I'm going to get e4 in.
That's exactly why I dismissed the whole queen takes b2 thing, because you're breaking and my pieces aren't in the game.
Right.
Yours
But
are.
it wasn't clear yet. I mean, I wasn't sure exactly what was happening. It was going to be a game. So maybe it's not a flying though. Now, one thing I could do, and I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to show it on the video. One thing I could do is I could just push this analysis button. You can't see what I'm doing. And I could start Stockfish here, and it could give us an analysis. But it's important now not to do this and
Right.
to let the humans analyze this and figure out what's going on. I only use it as a last resort. I know I used it a couple times in the videos I was making because I couldn't remember what was the defense. I said, okay, I give up. I can't remember what Stockfish say. Oh yeah, God, I'm an idiot. But anyway, that was kind of the fly in the ointment. Otherwise, you know, knight d2 and knight fd2 and knight d3 just kill you. So the alternative was, as you did say, as a candidate move, was to play this move. But now the drawback is this. Now I do the queen c2 trick. Okay. Now you don't have time for knight e4 because of knight b3. So I was looking at some really wild stuff here. It's fascinating. You'll see it all. a5. The idea is to get the pawn down to a3. So the queen has this square, and it's just fascinating what comes up. And there was some stuff where you sacrifice a pawn just to deflect my queen out of there. Like for instance, queen a4 check, resecuring a3. Then you get this crazy move in, so that my queen is once again deflected off a2, and you
Right.
survive this. And now you're threatening to take on a2. So my queen comes back, and you kick it, and then comes this move. You know, it just got wild. It just got wild and crazy, and the whole time I'm down a rook. So I can't remember but the knight fd2 was the line I came up with afterwards, and then I was even thinking of some other stuff. Let's see. Okay, queen takes a1, castles, and I say, wait, queen takes a1. Wait, something's wrong here. Knight, oh no, I know. I castle, and you play queen here. And I was considering some other stuff where this knight tries to remaneuver around this way, or it even goes to e5, where it's stopping you from playing a versatile move like knight d7 in some lines. I can't remember it all now. Let's just revert and get to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
But it's possible you could have taken it, and
Yeah, I felt like I could have, but then, you know, after looking at some calculations, it just seemed like unclear where you were developed and I wasn't, so I just didn't go for it.
right. But I think you went astray, though. Unfortunately, you went astray. That's a good move. It's just in case I want to double your pawns, and I think now even more so, the pawn is just too poisoned to take.
I can just play e6 here.
Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to cover, just for the sake of argument. Okay. I was analyzing. There was one other candidate move you have, and that's just to play queen b6. Did you consider that move?
I did consider it. I really did. But what I didn't like about it was on general principle, taking the time to go all the way to from D8 to D6, and then B6, and then gobbling on B2, and then all the way back to B6.
Perfect.
Taking
Good
1,
answer.
2, 3, 4, 5 moves to take a pawn to give you a semi-open file to put a rook on. So on principle, I did not. I dismissed that.
Yeah, and I played out some what I call fantasy line, where I just look at the possibility. I go here, and I say you need to get your development going, and then I play E4, and you play E6, and I take, and I discussed about taking with a knight, but then this comes in, and then there's this rook check, and you block it. Then I throw this knight in here, and you don't have time to castle because, or at least kingside. I guess you can't castle queenside either because F7 is going to fall. And I'm just playing out these positions and saying, gee, this is great for white. I've got this nice initiative. And anyway, I just wanted to show it to you and ask you if you had considered it. But it was at this point that I think you lost the thread of the game. You're correct in not taking on B2, especially now. If there was a time to take it, it was when there was a rook involved. But even that was risky. I think what you need to do simply, and I was suggesting in the video, even though I did talk about a possible G5, was just play E6 here and castle short.
Yeah, I was too stubborn, and I said that to myself while I was thinking about what move to choose. I said to myself, E6 and castling short, there's nothing wrong with that. But then I said to myself, but then what the heck was the point of putting the queen on B6 and it just didn't. So I was too stubborn.
Well,
I wasn't flexible enough.
Yeah.
I forced a position which really wasn't that good for me.
Okay, so let's take that answer and try to elaborate on it to improve not only your play but anybody else that's looking at this. It's true you did spend some time attacking that pawn. It's true you didn't take it because of the risks involved once you saw that far. Clearly you didn't calculate all that out when you played queen b6. I could back up and see how long you took on that move, and then because I took 20 minutes on playing bishop d3, it's obvious I had everything covered, and what I've showed you here backs that up. And when you see the video, you'll of course see what I've showed you and a little bit more.
Right.
Of course, though, you'll have to have a separate board set up because the board stays the same. I'm analyzing. I'm looking at a three-dimensional board off to my left, and you can't see that, and you can't see the pieces move. You just hear me visualizing the moves, and half the time I'm making notation errors as I'm saying it. So it gets a little confusing, but it's the best we can do. You get my thoughts. But okay, let's just look at this for a second. If you play this, now I do here, and you go there, and I know at one point I was talking about how I'm a tempo and a half ahead, and I was explaining why I'm a tempo and a half ahead. And it's one of the reasons because you captured on D3 and developed my queen. But
right.
here I'm going to go ahead with E4. Okay, I'm probably going to just let you have this until the end of time. So if you take it, I can take it. Now, do you want to take on E4 and let me take on E7? Not necessarily. Just castle. Now,
right.
It's true your queen is out of play, but
yeah, misplaced.
But what do I really have? Okay, let's be honest. What do I really have here? I have just a little bit of space. That's all I have. Okay.
Maybe you can get a knight on E5, but I'm going to be playing C5. So yeah, this is a much better line than the one I chose.
So you can go for one drawback with playing for C5, although it's perfectly reasonable, is that it will give me the potential to create the outside pawn majority.
Right.
Look at I guess it's videos lesson 7 when the second game where I had to defend a knight and pawn ending where my opponent had the outside pawn majority. But anyway, I was thinking just on the conservative line of playing queen c6. I mean pawn c6 so the queen can go to c7.
Right.
And
like a restraint structure or something.
Right. And generally speaking, like I say, what do I have here? And the answer is I don't. What I have is what I strove to achieve at the beginning of the video. I want to play a simple opening where I preserve the advantage of the first move and then see what I can create. And that's what I'm going to have to do here. I'm going to have to see what I can create. I don't know what I can create yet. I don't know. I'm just going to continue my development. I'll continue to offer you this pawn, and I'll develop the rook, I suppose. But it's a whole other game. But really, what's wrong with your position here? The answer is nothing. Nothing.
Also, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
There's another reason why I played the way I did. And the reason why I played the way I did was because I made the statement to myself, after analyzing G5 and Castle Long, I said to myself, you know what? This might be playable, and it needs testing, is what I said to myself. And I said to myself, if I don't go for it, I'll never get this opposite side castle's position again. And if I do go for it, the worst that'll happen is I'll lose, and it'll be a fun game where we're trying to attack each other's kings.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting approach.
It proved to be much harder than I thought it was going to be.
Well, it definitely gives you some good practice, and it puts me to the test. It makes me find good moves. You basically went into a disadvantageous position and made me find moves that beat you.
Right.
So yeah, you did lose. But you gain the wealth of experience from this. Now you know if you reach anything similar to this in a game that counts. Say you're rated 1988 and you're playing in the last round and you're a half a point ahead of your opponent and you're playing for first prize. Well, you don't necessarily risk the loss. By playing longside castling, you play this line and make him prove that he has something. And the answer is maybe he doesn't, and because your game is more even, your chances of not losing are rising dramatically. Like theoretically, if you had this position against an equal player 100 times, you might win 20, lose 20, and draw 60. But in the other position, if you had that you got into, if you're playing against an equal player 100 times, you might find yourself winning 40, losing 40, and drawing only 20. Or you might even find yourself winning 35, losing 45, and drawing 20. You see, so the risk of a loss goes up substantially, and I don't think the risk of a win goes up enough to totally compensate for it.
Right.
And those are just ballpark numbers that I picked out of the top of my head. But when you increase your losing chances, what it basically comes down to is you're playing impulsively. You're not necessarily playing the best move, and yeah, your winning chances could go up, but when the losing chances go up too, you're just putting more of a burden on yourself. I've started a series. Nothing's online yet. I started making a video series of my games when I was under 1600, and not only did I suck back then, but as I'm watching these games and I'm looking through other games to include in the series, I'm seeing is how I slowly started improving my play, where I wouldn't make these bonehead moves I used to make, and I would gradually, slowly but surely, increase my strength. And I can recall when I was cracking 2000, I would fall apart against 2100 players and above, because I would make some kind of impulsive move somewhere around move 14 to 20 that would just throw me on the defensive, and I would not be able to salvage the game. And there's really no weakness in the black position here. The only theoretical weakness is your kingside pawn structure, and I'm not really poised to take advantage of that with a pawn storm. Maybe I could still, I don't know, but it seems like you're equal. But let's get back to the game. It's still not too late to play bishop g7 and castle short, okay?
Yeah, I considered that too.
It's still about an equal game, and that kind of surprised me. So, okay. So, well, what do I want to do? I want to attack his king. Of course, I want to attack his king. How can I do it? So I started looking at ways I can do it, and I started considering ways you could go after mine. And the natural move is, I said, well, I got to complete my development first. But one thing, and I talk about it in the video, I tell people here's one thing, if this helps you, and let's try and illustrate what I said in the video. I said, okay, if you're going to castle opposite, let's do this. Let's find your quickest mate. You get to move pieces on both sides. So let's not make any gross blunders, but let's find your quickest mate. Okay? Now, we're going to play weak moves for white, and we're going to find your quickest mate. Let's count the moves. Okay, I think this is fine because we've got to get rid of the defender of H2. So 1. Now I'm going to make some weak moves on white's part. 2. 3. Is that 3 moves? Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes another weak move. 4. 5. 6. Okay, now you've got the mate on move 7. And clearly, I can stop mate with this move, right? So the quickest, maybe the quickest mate you have is 7 moves. Now, arguably, you could sit and play with this and say, oh, I found one in 5 moves. But the whole point of the matter is, now, and I didn't say this in the original video, well, let's try this for white. How quick can white get a mate? Okay?
Right.
And I'm 1. I'm going to make moves for you. 2. 3. 4. I got one quicker than you did.
Right.
Now, that obviously this is not going to happen, but the point of the exercise is simple. What it's saying is it's a long way to checkmate. And I've been talking about this recently too. If you go back to video lesson 1, I put that embedded that little video in there on thinking deficiencies about Black had this wonderful knight on F4, and he's got this queen set up on the C8 H3 diagonal, and it wants to administer a checkmate on G2. And Black is so close to doing this every move. Every move, it's just he's threatening to do this. But every move White's making, he's stopping it. He keeps stopping it. He keeps stopping it. And finally, Black just blows it. Right? So,
Yeah.
so the thing to think about is, even though you've got attacking chances here, so does White. So you do have the opposite side castling effect. And the move you the move you played is fine, and now I want to open up lines towards your king.
Right.
But this is I think this is the point that that this move in effect lost the game for you. I know when you played it, I said something to the effect, oh, look at that, 2 free pawns. I don't want either of them. I don't want to collect pawns. I want to checkmate him. And I started looking at ways to checkmate him, and I looked back and I was saying, well, I can always come back and analyze taking those pawns. And the more I started looking at it, the more I realized that I could just take the pawn and defend this position. You couldn't do a thing.
Yeah, I missed one thing that, and right when I saw I missed it, I knew I was kind of hopeless.
What did you miss?
I thought was, I was looking at your other moves aside from not taking the pawn, but the most forcing thing is if you take the pawn on B4 or on B5. And what I thought was after knight takes B5, I thought I could play queen H6 here. But I can't because
knight takes
because
F7.
Yeah, and that changes everything because I was planning on playing a whole bunch of stuff here. You know, for whatever it's worth, I was planning on all kinds of stuff. You know, developing, getting a rook on H1. I'm probably still lost here, but at least I could, you know, kick that knight out and, you know, try to open up lines. But once I saw that I can't because of this, which was a mistake on my part, the only logical move is to play that move. So.
Yeah, I was looking at a lot of things, like even C5 and maybe even playing C6 and sacking my pawn. It's all in the video. But I actually didn't spend much time looking at an attack. My attention, it's just kind of like a natural feel that I had for the game that you know, I said I'll come back. I said, well, let's look at it now. I'm not seeing a quick way to attack you. And while I'm busy attacking him, he's going to be attacking me. So let's go ahead and look at taking that thing and see if I can just stop his attack cold and be a pawn up. And it just became the correct path to go. And it's interesting how my knights threatened to come up the board, and I was kind of joking about it. Maybe they'll just keep doing that, march up the board. But Yeah, gotta put a...
Here, I really wanted to play E5, but I couldn't.
Trying to get a little humor in here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, here's where they start moving up the board. And like I say, I wanted to play this, but it just drops a pawn.
Yeah,
and but it stops my queen f5.
It does, because then I take the knight.
Right.
I was thinking to myself, well, I know I'm lost, but maybe he'll play queen f5.
Right. But I just had that, and now I had queen f5, and I was talking about getting that in. At some point I was suggesting king b8 on your part, just to be able to get it. And here I had an interesting discussion. I said, you know, a lot of people will just grab that queen. They'll trade the queen without hesitation because they know that they win the ending. And if you notice, I didn't take your queen for the longest time.
That was so smart, and I was thinking that. I was thinking to myself, man, it'd be smart for him not to take my queen, because I'm kind of messed up over there.
Yeah, and the whole idea of not taking it is that if you take it, well, you've got these crummy pawns over there, and I've got this nice knight that's just going to irritate the heck out of you. You can't do anything with it, and I'll just play out the ending upon ahead. And what I'm saying is, going back to what I wanted to do. Now that I've stopped your attack, I want to start mine. If you want to trade queens because you're afraid of my queen, take it. I don't care. And I kept saying, I'm not going to trade queens. I'm not. And
that was very psychological, by the way. By keeping it there and keeping that tension, I had to look out for a whole lot more stuff.
Yeah. So I think this is where I took it, and I said, okay, for those fans of the queen trade, now's time to do it. And I gave some reasons on my video. Okay, so I thought, you know, maybe you'd be trying for h4. Really not much, but now I got this knight into e5, and that's just such a great knight.
Now h4 to me, it doesn't even make sense because I don't have any mating nets, so I didn't even. I was just like, the plans that I had before were just out the window. Nothing made any sense anymore. And
I'm trying to do something here, like just get a minority attack going, trying to induce c6 so I can get the minority attack. And here I just said, well, I'll just stop this knight from coming in. Although my knight's doing a good job of it now, I may not keep the knight there. Like I said, I'm trying to. There, finally he plays it. Now I got minority attack in, and I completely overlooked a6, but it's logical. And now I've got the new idea: redeploy the knight.
I was trying to trap your rook with b6.
I know. I was anticipating things where you would try to do that. And I had things off the pass to make sure it was safe. I knew it would get trapped in there as it was, but I also said, well, I don't care. I can get it out of there. There's a way to get it out of there. I know there's a way to get it out of there, unless I'm mistaken. But we're both kind of low on time, so I didn't have. But now you've allowed me to get. One drawback with trying to trap the rook is you have allowed me to get b5 in.
Yeah, that's actually, I said that to myself before considering knight c4, and so I dismissed knight c4 on that premise, but then about a minute later, I forgot why I dismissed knight c4, and I couldn't remember why, so I said, okay, this is just a good move then, but it's not because of b5.
Right. So maybe what you have to play here is just try to slow play it. But I had a plan here. I said he's stopping b5, but I'm going to get it in, and the way I'm going to get it in is just remaneuvering. The rooks are going to come over the b file, and this knight's coming into c3, and you can't stop b5. It's coming. So I had a way to get b5 in, and I do discuss it on the video. So you can't stop it. So now I get it in, but I also had to be sure that, like I said, I didn't get my rook trap, and I have to watch out for some tricks with b6, but you can't play it for the longest time, and because I'm just going to grab on c6.
I was hoping, after this exchanges, go ahead and we'll take, I was hoping you play, let's go back a move. I was hoping you would take here.
Oh, yeah, because I had covered that earlier, and without the knight on c4, but now with the knight on c4, I'm going to drop this rook. And I did mention again, because I did consider taking here, and I said, oh, and now the rook's no longer guarded, and I gave you credit. I said, oh, good job, Truxton. You solved the problem. So yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, that was the whole idea. So I was going to rook here, knight here, here, then here, and there. And how are you going to stop mate or a skewer at the same time?
Right. Exactly. So.
So you played a great move by not doing that.
But I didn't rush. I was sure I wasn't going to rush. I had considered that possibility earlier, and before the knight gets to c4, I considered this possibility, but then my rooks are guarding each other. Now they're not. So knight d3, and as I said, I'm going to get my rook out of there, but.
I was happy here because I really wanted to trade knights. I was super happy in this position because all I wanted to do was trade the knights and go to a rook and pawn endgame where I've got drawing chances.
Right.
And I accomplished that.
But I pretty much have to trade knights because eventually I'm going to have to get my rook out. I'm discussing it. I had to open up some line for my rooks, and the only lines I could open up were on the queen side. And now that I've done that, I've got to do what I did. And here, I think rook b7 is a mistake because you just play king c8. Well, don't play king c8. You don't take.
Exactly.
You let me take, and then your king is covering both b7 and b8. But
right.
As I was saying, okay, yeah, you resigned here. I was thinking that, as I showed briefly at the very end of the game, that maybe you resigned prematurely. What?
I resigned because I was very disappointed in allowing your rook to go to b8, and I didn't see a defense to like if I just played this move, then you can check back, take, and I just didn't see. Maybe I'm missing something, but I just didn't see a defense to that, and I was really disappointed. But it turns out that it's not as big of a deal as actually maybe I'd like to hear your comments on this because.
Okay, well, leave that position there. Let's just show me this position. Get the rook back on h7. Let's talk about it for a second. For one, you have counterplay on f7, okay,
right.
or f2. Check, and then put the rook here, okay. Now, it's true that maybe g4 is in trouble now, but maybe e3 is in trouble. Okay, so you kind of have, if there's drawing chances, they're here.
Right.
We can't analyze this out. This isn't for you to look at and help you learn rook and pawn endings. But going back to this initial position, I was analyzing this, and rather than play your move, which has some drawing chances, what I was showing you was you want to guard you want to guard h5 laterally. Okay.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
If you play c5, you're threatening to get a passed pawn, right?
Yeah.
So I pretty much have to take, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I was analyzing, and I was busy doing this, and all of a sudden I heard the bell ring, and I thought, oh my God, did I use too much time and forget about the clock, and my flag fell. And I look and see you resign. But here, once again, now you have d4, and I'm not saying this is forced. This is as far as I got.
Yeah, I missed c5 idea. I totally
and
missed.
White's better. Black could draw. You've got the pawns on one side of the board. I don't know.
Right.
You do have drawing chances here. Again, I could turn Stockfish on and it would give some kind of valuation. If it gives any evaluation under a half a pawn, then chances are you're drawing. If it gives an advantage over a pawn for White, then chances are White's winning. But I've got to work here. My work is cut out. How am I going to progress here? The weakness is h5, and you've got it covered now. Both your rooks can defend it. So.
And for what it's worth, you do have double pawns.
Yeah, that too.
It's not so easy for you to push the f pawn.
Right.
Yeah, I missed that idea. So it was a premature resignation. I should have spent probably a little more time, but I didn't have much time.
Right.
So.
Well, if anything, Truxton, it's my move. I mean, if this just helps, folks, you should never resign when it's your opponent's move. Even if he has mate and 1, don't resign when it's your opponent's move. So many things can happen. I was analyzing Rook B8. That doesn't mean I'm going to play Rook B8. I probably had a minute and a half left to make up my mind. I might have switched plans. I might have gone back to stop C5 and try and regroup. I might have played Rook C3 with the idea of transferring the king to F1 and to E2. I mean, I'm just seeing this plan right now because I was looking at that in the video. Says, gosh, maybe he's drawing, and all of a sudden I'm winning. So maybe I don't play Rook B8. I still had the clock will show on the video how much time I had left when you resigned, but that's that much more time for me to find a new candidate move. So, well, gee, he has drawing chances. What else can I do? And that's the way when I'm playing well, I'll do. And I'll say, okay, King F1. Oh, wait, not King F1. Rook C3. Now, what do? Granted, you only have so much time, but let's just burn a move. Let's have you go defend H5. Meanwhile, my king's going to be safe on E2. I could probably play F3 right here. I think if you take, it's bad. It undoubles my pawns.
You're also threatening F4.
And
passer.
And so maybe I'm going to play like this. But there's no guarantee I was going to play Rook B8. I hadn't played it yet. That was the move I was analyzing, but there's no guarantee I'm going to play it. But the point of not resigning, of resigning when it's your opponent's move, is let him play his move. What if, like for instance, instead of Rook C3, suppose I was hovering on this move, getting ready to play it, and the second that I release it, or the split second before I release it, my opponent resigns. Well, now he can't take it. Now, if you're playing over the board, I guess it's a little different. You can resign at any time. Like, say I pick up my rook, and I start to hold it on B5, and I haven't taken my hand. I have to move the rook, but I haven't taken my hand off the piece. But I'm getting ready to take my hand off the piece. Do you want to resign with me holding my rook on a square I'm going to lose it?
Right.
No. Okay, so the lesson is don't resign. I've done it. I remember one time hanging my queen, and it was my opponent's movie. All he had to do was take it. I just looked at that and said, oh, shoot. And I knew he would take it, and he's not going to miss it, but I could have let him take it. What if he doesn't? You know, I've just resigned. The game's over. You can't take back a resignation.
Right.
Okay, so there was no guarantee I'd play Rook B8 and allowing C5, because that was what I was looking at. Guarding, because I know that's your weakness. I've been talking about that's your weakness. How are you going to guard it? Well, you're going to guard it laterally, because you can't get behind it vertically anymore with Rook B8. You can't. Burn a move. Play Rook here. What do? You don't. Okay, it's gone. And once that pawn falls, it's just a matter of time before that one falls.
Right.
So then you're just left with this awful mess of my pawn majority going after your king side. They're just going to start moving up the board. So Rook B8 on my part might be a mistake. So you've got two things to analyze. Well, aside from everything else, this beauty of analyzing a game after, we have two things just in this final position. What does White play? Does White play King F1? Or rather, no. White play Rook C3 or Rook C2 with the idea of King F1 and then playing F3? Maybe I could play F3 in this position. Maybe I could do it right. Well, no, it lets you get C5 in. I'm trying to keep this pawn weak. I think it's important that I block your pawn, and probably better do it with this rook, because this rook is just keeping an eye on f2 in case there's anything wrong. So you bring the rook back. I just play f3 here. You clearly can't take it. It's just going to untangle my pawns, and
Right.
I've got a new way to attack h5. So what you're going to do is maybe you're going to get tied down to guarding g4. I don't know if I want to push f4. It gives me a pass pawn, but I've also got a backward pawn. But maybe I can do it, and then transfer my king up to d3 and try and advance e4. No, but it's something for you to look at and study. If Grandmaster's playing International Master in this position as white, he's going to win, we could expect. But International Master versus Grandmaster, maybe the Grandmaster can pull a draw out.
Right.
Maybe I can pull a draw out against you with black here. Maybe I can win with white, but you can't beat me if you have white. So it's definitely something to study. Okay, I think we've just about covered everything out of this game, other than what you have yet to see on the video. Do you have any conclusions you'd like to make for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're trying to play the best chess you can, don't try to justify a plan that isn't good, and be flexible, and always try to make the best moves possible. Don't make a move just because you have to justify a plan. Clearly, I could have castled kingside, and I did consider it, but I wasn't flexible enough to do it. So that's the lesson for me.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks everyone for their time of stopping to watch these videos, and I wish you great success in your chess. Take care.